We pray. Amen. Okay, let me see. If you identify with anybody of these kind of groups, these experiences, these moments, I've got this list. Number one, you've got someone in your life that when you talk to them, when you get done dealing with them, you feel less. Like you feel like you just had to put a whole lot of effort into this. It's not necessarily like a bad thing. It's not like this person's an awful person or a wrong person. It's just, you just feel tired. Like they took something from you. Like it cost you something to be around them. And if you've noticed some of that, sometimes you can gauge how much somebody's with. Sometimes it just depends on the conversation that you're having, because sometimes your partner is the person who it is costing you a lot. In fact, the best partnerships are the ebb and flow. Yes, I am hearing you. You are requiring my energy right now, knowing that tomorrow I will require yours. Those are some of the best, when that is free flowing, those are the best of relationships. But sometimes, and God bless it, I'm what they call an extrovert. I found that out. The first time I heard that word, I was in Pee Wee hockey. The first time I was asked to leave. And when I say my eyes weren't on the puck, it's not or on my stick, that wasn't it. I was busy talking to the referee and trying to make him my friend. What I have learned about introverts is this level of activity, of being in front of people, being in an engaged action like this, takes so much more. Right? It's one of the reasons, one of the real gifts of online ministry is that people who just doing what you're doing now, sitting in a pew, find it overwhelming because you're in a crowd. Sometimes people can sap an energy out of you that you need to replenish. How about this? You are the person, or you know someone who is this person, who is the caretaker for everyone you know. You are the person, the center of the spoke for family units, for friendship circles. If it weren't for you on that text thread, your friends wouldn't talk to each other. If it weren't for you, the book club wouldn't get together. Your organization isn't moving. Maybe there's this. This is the pandemic before the pandemic, or epidemic, for Midwesterners. When you don't have something on the schedule and you are sitting at home, you feel like you're wasting time. When you have free time and you realize that you have done nothing with the last hour and a half, you're like, I just wasted it. It was good for nothing. Relatedly, when you are kind to yourself, when you do something nice for you. For some of us, that is alone time. For some of us, that is doing nothing, but it can stretch to something more. It can be to how you spend your money. You actually bought a nice thing for yourself. When you are kind to yourself, the first one, you struggle with the thought, I really didn't need this. There's other people who suffer so much harder than me. Like that becomes the struggle. I was at a friend's wedding. This was many years ago. I'm at a friend's wedding and I know his dad, I'm like, look, hey, congratulations, there's this big wedding. And the first thing he tells me is how cheap it is. Hey man, I like a good deal. Let's hear about this deal. And he tells me where they saved money. We saved money on the space because he was a member here. And then we saved on the food because we knew this person. And I was like, cool. And then he kept it going. Then we saved money here, and we saved money on here. And they're saving money on the honeymoon because of this and this. And like I said, I like a good deal as much as the next person. But if you spent a lot of money on your wedding, that's okay. Have you ever known somebody who, when they bought a new car, the first thing was, oh, but I got it at a great deal? It's okay. You deserve a nice thing. Sorry, that's already where the sermon's going. How about this? I call this the liturgy of the shoulds. Now, there's things you should do. You should pay your taxes. That's coming up. You should bathe. Amen. But that's not what I mean when I say the liturgy of the shoulds. I would hope you kind of get in there. Those optional things, that external pressure that somebody is putting on you, that voice in your head that you can't let go. I really should, get on the ball when it comes to planning my kids' summer vacation. I really should spend more time meal prepping. I really should be a better person about this. The liturgy of the shoulds. Notice the energy that comes with I should. I really, really should. Or how about this? You have had a cause, a burning cause in your heart, some injustice in the world, some calamity that has affected you. Maybe it affected you directly. Maybe it affected somebody you love. And now you want to be the standard bearer, the warrior, the person who is making a difference in the world for this purpose. It is now your life mission to change something. And it is taking so long to see even incremental change that it is affecting how you sleep, how you eat, and how you view yourself. Now, maybe you just heard that whole list and you're like, Pastor, you're preaching to everybody else. That might be you. If so, I've got something at the end for you. So stay with me. Today's story about Jesus is a continuation. This is still Mark. What chapter? This is the beginning of the story. And last week, the reading was from Mark 1. It was an exorcism with lots of details. Pastor Chris did a really good job going through it. And I have never heard Bob Marley in a sermon, and I'm so happy. Just breaking down walls for me, Anyway, if you didn't hear it, we got it online. Mark 1. So the day starts with this exorcism. It then goes on to there's a mother-in-law who needs healing and a fever, and Jesus goes to that place and he heals this woman. And then the way the story says, the town, everyone is bringing all of the sick, all those who are filled with demons to Jesus' door. The whole town is at the door. This is peak demand for product Jesus. Now, one thing to know, one of the reasons everybody feels like they can do this is healers, in almost all world cultures, there always rises up some people who have a way of getting energies to move in better ways, who can, with their words or with old wisdom and old medicines, are able to get things moving in the right direction. But frequently in the center of the world, in Palestine, and at this time lining up, if you were a healer in this time, in this world, you stayed in one location, and people came to you. And in fact, your family were kind of the gatekeepers. Your blood relatives were the only ones you could really trust, and they were the ones who let the right ones get to you. And if you had something sick and you were because that's how you knew who to bribe if you wanted to get to the head of the line. There's an institutional understanding of how things are supposed to go. the healer has what you need, you go to the healer. And while we don't really get up and go to places as much anymore, I still think this is kind of how it works. If you donate to my sanctuary, to my capital campaign, you'll get this, and this, and that will lead towards a better life, a new you. Just buy my book. You're 300 pages away from a new and improved you. So, how does Jesus react to the rising excitement around his ministry? He spent the whole day with these people. He did it he had a full day of exorcisms and healings. And then it says, before the sun was up, he wakes up. Before it's still dark, he gets up and goes. Two things. One, Jesus is obviously a morning person. He just I'm a morning person. If you have this full cranked day. There are some of us who, if you have a full day from sunup to sundown, put a fork in me, I'm not waking up till lunch. Jesus, it's waking up early. And one thing just to say, that is all culturally located. The fact that I'm an early riser, American culture values that, even if I don't do anything with my morning. Somehow being an early riser is seen as go get 'em, rise to the moment. I'm asleep by 8:30 every day of the week. Being a night owl it's just a different clock, folks. But Jesus is this early morning person. He gets up to be alone. I really identified with this. I was always a morning person, but when my first son was born, about 2 months after he was born, I realized we were clocking him. It was about 2 months trying to get the sleep schedule right, and there was nothing routine about my eldest when he was a baby. You couldn't count on anything except this one bit. He would be asleep from 3 in the morning to 7 in the morning. I would wake up at 4 a.m. just to be by myself and not needed. My wife slept, so I get it. He goes by himself to pray. My Midwestern instincts don't know if they like this. See, he's got all these people who need him. If you're awake and you have this kind of power, why aren't you doing more? There are suffering people out there, Jesus. If they're just outside the door, they're surely camped. They're sleeping. You could go through it pretty quick. You could bop it out. Be more effective with your time. Be more efficient with these hours. You don't know who you could be missing. I got that voice in my head. But what's clear to me here in this passage of Jesus taking this time to be alone, away from everybody, to a deserted place, just to pray, to get his head on straight. While Jesus has a deep compassion for the world, for the suffering of people, Jesus has this deep, overwhelming, abiding compassion for the suffering of people, and at the same time is aware, he holds it side by side to his needs. That this Jesus of Nazareth, as a human being, holds both a deep compassion for what other people are going through and I need some time to be me. To be in touch with the deep center of who I am. Then what happens? Peter, kind of the lead disciple, the main follower. Everyone is looking for you. Man, that line, I dramatize it a lot in my head because it's the line. Everyone is looking for you. It is peak demand. What are we doing, right? In church life, if you had that kind of crowd, second service. The budget's growing. We got to get an associate. When the demand is higher, people like what you're selling, make more. People are actually are listening to you. We got to record it, and we can distribute it better. Spread the impact. We'll have a morning service. Waffles and exorcisms. Let's put it on the calendar, folks. Waffles and exorcisms. The disciples are clearly coming with the energy and the expectation that today we are going to do what yesterday was. They have no greater vision than what was just happening. What is happening right now. They, like so many of us, in a moment of excitement. In today's world, it's the obsession with up and to the right. Where are my business people at? If the graph is moving up and to the right, we got to keep going right. We got to keep going up and to the right. What are we doing next? We're going to multiply. It can almost be worse if it's down and to the right. We have to, that's an emergency. We got to do something different. We can't see past what the real moment is. The moment is causing us so much anxiety because we don't know what the next step is. They are no longer in touch with the deep knowing of who they are, what the mission is. It's just, I'm just really excited about what just happened, and I want more of it. What is Jesus' reaction? They just said, everyone is looking for you. Jesus' next words, let's go to the other towns. He didn't even really respond directly. He didn't say, well, we're not doing this. He just said, we're moving on. Jesus is so connected with the deep sense of his mission, the life that God has put him into, that success isn't shaking him away. He knows that he's not there to be the village healer, where only certain people are able to get to him, but to spread this good news. He is not receiving what they are putting on him. Do you notice that the only person that seems like who doesn't have a Messiah complex is the person they called the Messiah? I'm here for everybody in the bigger sense. Connected here. This passage gives us a better understanding of the most important thing for any follower of Jesus to hear. What is the mission of every follower of Jesus? What is the great commandment? Love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, how do we do that? Jesus, in this passage, shows us exactly how. His life is a mission of healing, of transformation for others, and it is paired with a deep sense of self-knowledge, care, and love. To know that you can that you pour into other people's lives, and there are times for you to receive from others and from the world. So do people, to go all the way back to the beginning, there's people in your life that drain you. Absolutely. I bet that was one of those things you're like, uh-huh. Who do you have in your life who pours into you? And sometimes the people that take the most, those are meaningful relationships. Most of us aren't in relationships that cost us a lot without a reason. They're family. This is where boundaries come into place. I'm only going to give you so much. And what do you expect to receive from these relationships? your free time and being kind to yourself is not an extravagance. It is a gift. I have been on many a retreat for spiritual stuff. They always sound so important. I was on a silent retreat. Do you believe that? I went on one retreat, and the thing about when you're a pastor and you get to say, like, I'm going on this spiritual retreat for this reason or this reason, you're always hoping that you're going to have some kind of breakthrough moment, right? That you're going to have an aha, that you come close to Jesus and suddenly you feel super Christian-y when you come back, and or like you come back and you're like, I've got 4 sermons and I just can't wait to preach, and that's the new sermon series, because that's the up and to the right mentality. The whole point of a spirit, like if I take a preaching retreat, if I'm at a preaching conference, the whole drive is, what can I bring back so that I can share here? Last year, my continuing ed, I went to the Festival of Homiletics. I had a whole sermon on it. It was 5 sermons, one day for 3 days. So 15 sermons. Like, how many sermons can I bring back? That was like the whole point. I'm at one spiritual retreat, and it was one thing after another leading up to it. You ever have that where you're going on, retreats aren't necessarily a vacation, but if you go on vacation, your job just decides that everything is going to explode the week you're going to leave? Has that ever happened? That was me. I'm about to leave on this retreat, a very spiritual retreat. It's beautiful landscape. I'm like, but I didn't have any time to prep for it. And I get there, and I've got a spiritual counselor who I'm meeting with, and I explain leading up. They ask me what's going on, and I explain everything, and I'm like, what should I do? Like, what kind of prayer regimen? Should I do Lectio Divina? Am I doing covenant discipleship? And they just wave and go, how about you do nothing? What? Just do nothing. The whole of doing nothing, it's not about just wasting time. It is knowing that you existing is valuable. What? Yeah, the fact that your heart is beating. The first hour was excruciating. Because I'm like, this is just, I wouldn't tell me that who's this? Should I look up their credentials? I mean, who are they to tell me to do nothing? The next few hours of like, well, I think I can game the system. I think if I, recognize how valuable I am by this point. See what I'm doing? It's like I'm already like trying to like up and to the right. I can be more spiritual if I just push a little harder. The whole point was that God doesn't need you to have big spiritual moments. You are wildly valuable to God, just as you are. You don't have to have a come to Jesus moment that's filled with tears and heartbreak. Those are great moments. Had a few myself. But that's not what's required for you to have a deep, loving, and communal relationship with God. It's not even about head knowledge. It's just knowing here that you are going to ride the wave of life of busyness and involvement and excitement, and knowing through this course, God has you. The liturgy of shoulds, always. If you are saying to yourself, when you put together your to-do list, your calendaring, my wife and I just did calendaring yesterday, and all I can say is in March, between my kids, my wife, and me, there are 3 days in March, 3 nights where we're all together. Not great. Not great. So if you're wondering, who am I preaching to? I'm watching myself later. At the same time, my January, that was a low. I wasn't as busy. And because of that energy, I can look at March and be like, well, that's just a busy time. Because I know I've got January there'll be a month. But you know what? I really should. If you tell yourself the shoulds, always check the energy. Is that something, when you say I should, is that coming from a place of, I want to serve, I feel it here? Or is it some ghost from your past that keeps crawling up your neck, trying to compare to who you think you ought to be, rather than who you are? If you fancy yourself to be one of these activists who is trying to change the world needs you. And it needs you to be whole and healthy. You will not be able to change the world burnt to a crisp. The long arc of the universe bends towards justice, and we want you to be a part of all of it. The only way to do that is if you're coming from in here, with a deep connection of who you are and that you can't do this alone. Oh, one other thing about finding that deep connection to yourself, letting it go. There's always, whenever I've preached a message about this, there's usually some few members in the congregation who are saying to themselves, well, that's a problem for young people. Because once you get old enough, it doesn't matter. Once you get old enough, you find out who you really are. And you know what? I haven't lived it. I don't know. However, I'll say this. I believe that there are folks who age out of the struggle. I also will say there's a difference between discovering who you are and that deep sense of self and surrendering. How many people have you met where retirement defeated them? Where when the kids got out of the house, they no longer knew who they were. Getting in touch with who you are is of vital importance, no matter how old or what relationship status or where you are on the journey of faith. Now, I'll just say this. If you were sitting through that whole list and you were like, got you, Pastor, I'm fine. Deep awareness of self, I tuned out. And I'm thinking about the Super Bowl. I've got one more thing for you. Or maybe you feel like you're in a good place. The challenge then, you have taken time to be a part. Your vacation was good. Your retreat worked. Your continuing education helped flourish. The reason you do that is then to pour into other people's lives. It is awkward sometimes to be wildly complimentary. When you see somebody, when you tell somebody, you know what? You are doing a fantastic job. Look at these 3 things that I can name. Be that person. Make it weird. If you're a direct supervisor for somebody, you get to comment on where they're missing or where they've messed or where they could grow. If you're not their direct supervisor, you're a follower of Jesus Christ. You are called to be wildly affirming of the gift they are to the world. That is, that you do not never underestimate your power to lift up somebody's day. With the words of your mouth, with a card written in your hand, being able to affirm somebody and the gifts that they are bringing to the world, to the good things that they have. Never underestimate that power. And so, my friends, wherever you are in your week, your month, whatever season you catch yourself, may from a deep sense and knowledge of the love God has for you, may you move, minister, May you pour out into other people's lives with generosity and grace. Amen.